announcement recently was the Hinkley nuclear project that the government gave the go-ahead for. What does this mean for the UK?
Well, it does mean that we're starting again on properly redeveloping our nuclear power stations. I mean, Hinkley is one, and absolutely right, for the attention to be paid to it at the moment, because it's been hanging there waiting to get going. There's been all the controversy about how much it's going to cost, about what its impact is going to have on the price of electricity in this country, and who is financing it. Security sits there as well. But at the same time, if we are going to carry on closing our coal-fired power stations, if we're going to say we can't replace them all by gas, what we must have is some low-carbon stuff, and nuclear has been enormously reliable for us in the UK.
A lot of people are against the strike price, which they argue is very high. So this would have an impact on consumer bills. Do you see that point of this argument?
Yes, absolutely right. I mean, look at the various options that we've got. Cheap coal-fired power stations producing us cheap electricity. Well, it does rather look like an awful lot of people don't want that. Gas, that's the next one along in price, pretty good, but we're not secure any longer with gas. We've still got this fight over fracking. I appreciate that the first fracked gas has arrived, imported in the UK. Gas is, though, a very cheap option, or it's not as cheap as coal, it is a cheaper option. And then we start this argument about renewables versus nuclear. And I often think that argument is in the wrong place, because on the one hand you've got nuclear, which is, as you rightly say, quite high price power, but what's the option? But the nuclear power station carries on producing power, whereas if you go to the wind or the solar, then they only produce power when the wind is blowing and the sun's out, and so you've got to have something else which you can switch on at the drop of a hat to back it up. And all that I ever see is how much the wind piece costs or the sun piece costs. I never see added in how much this backup that's is going to run for 60 or 70% of the time. That seems to be ignored out of the calculation. And doing the sums properly, being honest about the cost, is vitally important, just as we have to shift the grid if we're going to go for renewables. There is no cheap option.